Good evening. This is the Groton Board of Education Policy Committee on Tuesday, November 19th, holding a special meeting, which only means that it was not on our calendar at the beginning of last year. There is no really unusual business to be conducted. We're just going to keep working through our first goal. Bev, can you hear me? Ian, can you hear me? Please turn on your mics for just a moment.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you. We give Bev a second. Well, the first order of business is not controversial. We have our minutes from the meeting of October 16th. I ask if there are any corrections, additions that either of you guys think we need to make.
I have nothing.
Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes as written. If there's any objections, speak up now or forever hold your peace.
So moved.
And I'll second that. Bev, are you with us yet? Okay. Any discussion?
If I can just add, Matthew, that I had called you up to say that Mark Romano has a surgery today, so he wasn't able to come for the evaluation of coaches, and the other two topics, we're still waiting to get feedback. We've gotten some, but I told Denise that we would put it on a future so that we could actually focus on the budget. And I've got Irene here, and I'd like to be able for us to be able to go first if that's possible.
First of all, I'd like to take our vote on our minutes, and then we'll move right into that.
I thought you already did that.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Ian?
Aye. Yep.
And
Aye.
so it's unanimous, passes 3 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. The minutes are passed as written.
Matthew, I
Susan.
won't be able to talk because I'm driving.
Okay, well,
I'll be listening, but
whistle
not
if there's
talking.
something. Okay, Susan, could you indicate those new business items that we're taking off the agenda for whichever, and give the reason?
They're actually old business. It's A, B, and C. And it's that the staff wasn't available to come and we didn't get the feedback that was requested from the board at the last policy meeting. So we want to wait till the next policy meeting when we have the people and the information.
The only old business agenda item I have on our agenda is discussion of the electronic communication devices.
I don't even see that. I see evaluation of coaches.
No, I don't.
This is
what
for the
came to me
19th,
yesterday.
Tuesday, the 19th.
No, I'm
I've
sorry.
got it right
I'm
in front
sorry.
of me.
I'm looking at the minutes. My apologies. Yes. Okay. So we're going to.
If we could table those three.
Do we need to have a date certain, Ian, or can we just table it indefinitely?
I just want to just postpone to the next meeting.
You can
And hopefully
postpone
we
to the
get it
next
together by
meeting.
then.
That's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
that would be good.
Postpone till December. Okay. Is there anything else that we're postponing for any other reason?
So it's 4115.3, 5145.5, and 5145.53, just to make it official, A, B, and C.
Okay. So, let me just do this officially. I have would somebody like to make a motion to postpone discussion of evaluation of coaches, P 4115.3 until December?
So moved.
Second? I'll second it. Discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Bev, I'm going to put you down as abstain because you're driving and can't do hands-free. If you object, speak up. So it's 2 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstaining. We have another motion. Could I have a motion to postpone discussion on prohibition of sex discrimination to the December meeting?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? I'll make a second then. Is there any discussion on postponing prohibition of sex discrimination, P 5145.5 and P 4118.112? If not, could I have a vote? All those in favor of the postponement until the December meeting?
Aye.
Aye. And I know Bev is present. I think I'm going to mark her as present. That's the word, because
That's
she's
fair.
not abstaining. She's present. She's voting present. Okay. The third one to be postponed is, or a motion, can I have a motion to postpone P 5145.33 gender diverse youth?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? I'll second it. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor of postponing transgender and gender diverse youth to the December meeting, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
3, 4, none opposed, none against. The motion is carried. Is there any particular order on the budget? We have 6 items dealing with the budget. Is there any hierarchy that anybody wants to suggest, or do we just go in the order that we have on the agenda?
I would like to suggest something that maybe might just kind of expedite everything. Is there? I'd like to just kind of move all these as a first read to the full board for discussion. I mean, I've been through the documents a number of times. They're all, they've been vetted. We, spliced the cave stuff in there. Anyway, I move that we
Well, before you make a motion, if
approve
you'd allow
all
me,
6 budget items.
first, for 2 things, Ian,
Say
I'm
again?
having a hard time hearing you. If there's some way you can adjust your sound. The second thing is, before you make
Yeah.
that motion, I want to see if that's the consensus that we even want to make that motion, because I think we can
Okay.
move. If there's nothing to discuss, we'll go through very quickly.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Ian, I think there's a couple sets of these. There was the set that we were asked to go back and do with the cave, and we sent those in to Floyd, and there were maybe 2 or 3 corrections that we made. And then I saw that you had a set, so I just don't
I'm
know.
talking about the set that's in the agenda package as they were presented
Oh,
in the agenda
okay.
package.
All
And
right.
just say, like, let's move these 6 to
All
the
right.
full board.
Thank you.
Because I don't have much to add to them at this point in time. And I see the adjustments that were made, but I think the discussion is better served by the full board at this point.
Thank
Well-
you. I also think, Ian, we can get it on for the regular meeting, and I think that's pretty important because we're getting ready for both the town review, and the town audit, and to get these, agreed upon by the board and get them in place, I think is pretty important. So I
Agreed.
appreciate
Yes.
that.
I'm of the same mindset.
Okay, perfect.
I
And then if there
really-
were things that you felt needed to go to regulation, you can certainly forward to Irene and I. We're not doing them
Susan,
yet, but we could.
Susan, let me run the meeting, because I want to really
I'm sorry.
respect your time frame. I have problem with your motion. I understand that you've read it and that you're satisfied with it, but when we send something to the board, there's a suggestion. It is implicit that we've approved it, and we need to give Bev a chance to ask questions. I may want to ask some questions, and we have Irene here. So if you want to make the motion, I'm not going to stop you. But I would ask that we just get right to it. It's your call.
All right. Well, I
Motion.
mean, I would make the motion that we just approve all 6 as a first read and send them to the board to discuss as a board.
So Joan,
And,
do I need to write this down, or does Joan get this as far as these motions? Susan, is Joan going to do the minutes?
We have the recordings, so that should be fine.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, Joan isn't here.
Okay, so
the transcripts are available in the recording. So.
is there a second to the motion to aggregate the six policy proposals in one and move them now? Is there a second to the motion? I'll ask again, is there a second to the motion?
I'm not seconding that, so if you're waiting for me, I'm not gonna second it.
Okay, and I'm not seconding it either, so the motion fails for lack of a second. Susan, looking at the 6, or Ian, or looking at the 6 that we have, do you want to start with anyone in particular, or just start with
I'm
31?
gonna let Irene do the piloting because she's got it all ready to go.
Irene, you're up.
Okay, thank
Welcome
you.
aboard.
I recommend we go in order that they're on the agenda because that's actually how they flow.
All right.
Thank
Before we get too far into it, I do have to just unfortunately I have to depart. There's a schedule crunch that I'm experiencing that I thought I could adapt around, but I simply cannot. So I'm gonna have to tap out here. I don't know. I'm basically in favor of all these going forward as a first read.
Okay, thank you, Ian.
So I don't know, Matthew, if you could like preemptively just record me as a as a yes vote for all 6 to go forward as a first read. I know it's a little unorthodox.
I don't know that I can
but-
legally do that, but I think we can certainly communicate that to the full board. That
Okay.
while these were voted by only 2, it was the feeling of Ian before he left that he would have voted in favor of it.
Right,
comfortable
right.
with
And the
that?
motion is on the floor that reflects that positive affirmation,
Yes.
even though it did not receive a second.
More than willing to make that public statement if you're
All right.
comfortable with it.
Yep, I'm good with it. Thank you, and good luck. And I will review the recording afterwards. So definitely feel free to, please do discuss in detail.
Okay, all in
Um,
favor, if you're going to shoot at me, shoot straight. That's all I ask.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night, all.
Good night.
You too, Ian.
It is 5:43 and Ian has had to leave for another commitment. We still have a quorum with Beverly and Matthew present. So Irene, it's yours on P 3110.
Okay, so it'll just take me a minute to actually project them. Okay, so let me know if I need to make it larger. It's at 150%
It's
right now.
legible to me.
Okay, perfect.
Bev, is it legible to you?
She's
Yep, I
driving.
can see it. I'm
Oh, you're
driving.
driving. Oh, okay. So knowing that Bev is driving, would you please,
Sure,
Say the name of it and what it's all about.
sure. I can read the specific changes to the policies. So it's policy 3110. It's budget planning, and it was missing an opening that was provided by CABE. So the general opening paragraph is the Board of Education board shall prepare an annual operating budget for the school district consistent with the provisions of federal and state statutes, as well as Groton's town charter requirements governing preparation and timeliness. So
seems
because
pretty
we,
clear to me. What do
Yeah.
you think, Bev?
Yeah, it sounds good to me. But what were
Did
you gonna
we-
say, Irene?
I was just going to say from here on out, a lot of the strikeouts is because we shortened it to the board in that opening paragraph. That's where you're going to see some of the removals or strikeouts in the rest of the policy, but I can read where they
Instead
are.
of saying Board of Education, we say
Right.
board.
Boy,
Exactly.
oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes
Mhm.
sense. Yeah.
And then there's a little more green.
Sure. So there's a new section that was in the CABE policy we added to ours. So in green, it's supplemental appropriations. So state law provides procedures through which, subsequent to approval of the annual budget, additional appropriations may, if required, be requested by the board from the town council. Prior to requesting supplemental funds, the board shall make every possible reasonable effort to live within the original appropriation and maintain essential educational programs.
You
Oh, yeah, that
you
sounds
added a word, go ahead, Bev.
No, I just said that sounds good.
You added a word that's not in the text. What I heard you say was make every possible reasonable effort. Did you want to add that possible? or just-
No, sorry,
Okay,
make every reasonable effort.
that's fine. So is there any discussion on this or are we ready to vote?
No, and I like that it says essential educational programs. That's good. Because that's what we're about.
That's
Mhm.
right.
All right.
So is there any further discussion or are we ready to take a vote, Beverly?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, all those in favor of passing P 3110 budget planning to the full board for a first reading indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. That's 2 in favor, none opposed, none abstaining, and we will share that we'll share Ian's message. No problem. Okay, we are now going on to 3113, setting budget priorities.
Okay, so in setting budget priorities, we added that shortened again. So it starts with the Board of Education, and then in green in brackets is just board. Shall on an annual basis study the school programs in relation to the present and future needs of the students. We added staff and the community, struck out the word and, to establish and approve budget guidelines and priorities for the ensuing fiscal year.
There's more that I have in green.
Oh,
going
I didn't know if you wanted to stop there and
Okay, well, I
Mm.
did have a question in that. I have no objection to the community. In fact, Susan knows that I love to engage the community. We've not done that, even though we have a communication plan. We've not really engaged incoming communications. Uh, We've done a great job on outgoing communications. Do you want to put community in there? Because it kind of obligates us to do what we haven't done.
Well, we're actually doing it with our new strategic planning, Matthew. You'll be happy to hear.
Okay,
right, it
Anne
is
Marie's in charge of that.
that's fine
it
with
is
me. I
part of
just
the
wanted to
existing.
highlight it.
And we
Yep.
do it when we have the public hearing, that's the community input.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So
can talk
I'm
about that
good with the word
offline.
community in there.
We can talk about that. I'll accept that, Bev. I have some other thoughts, but we can do that offline later.
Sure, and just to verify, community was in the prior policy. It's not something we added.
Fine. Fine.
To continue, the superintendent shall take into consideration the financial priority and needs of the district and involve the administrative staff in its development. That's a new sentence. The board, in collaboration with the superintendent, shall initiate this process each year in September. What's stricken out is upon final approval of the budget and shall include in its consultation with the administration in the early fall.
So I have a question for Susan. Does this mean that we're going to start the budget process in August or September?
We actually do. We start getting ready for it and we start giving out guidelines to administrators. And then they were due November 15th. So we give them time. We have a Google Doc for them to ask for those extra supports that you all are asking them for. So a lot of work goes behind the scenes in the fall.
That's fine. Bev,
And
do you
then
have any more questions? Take all the time?
No, and Susan, you think that, so this is something you already do?
Yeah,
Okay, oh, you already do it, I'm fine with it.
yeah.
wa-
And I think it
must
was
be working
recommended
for
even
you.
by the ad hoc committee. So it's something that they would agree to as well, the budget ad hoc committee.
Yeah, because I'm sure you don't start getting input from the staff in October or November. You wouldn't have time to do all that. By the time they accumulate everything that they need and talk to the teachers and so forth and so on, it would be too short. So it makes sense that you start in September, August.
Yeah, yeah,
right, and we also set the budget timeline in September.
that's true. We still
So
have to
that's-
vote on that or
Right.
get that up and at 'em this month.
So that was the only changes.
Any more discussion? Beverly, would you like to make a motion?
Okay, I make a motion to accept what Irene said.
So I'm hearing
type
that
some more
Beverly
in here.
makes some, let me think. Would somebody like to make a motion that we adopt P 3113 as submitted by administration for setting budget priorities?
Okay, I make that motion.
So moved. Okay, I'll second that. Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion?
Nope.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I say aye as well. We have 2 in favor, none opposed, none abstained. The item is carried for first reading to the full board. Our next item on the agenda is 3120, preparation of budget document.
So in that, we were deleting the preparation of because that's procedural. So we were just putting budget document. So we were just striking preparation of.
Okay,
And the superintendent shall direct the preparation of the recommended annual budget to make the budget a comprehensive reflection of the financial needs of the school system, representatives of the community, students, certified and non-certified staff, and administrative staff shall be involved in the budget process. Procedure for such involvement shall be developed by the superintendent and implemented by the superintendent's office following review by the Board of Education, in brackets is board. And we struck out in that paragraph, a recommended budget shall be compiled and submitted to the Board of Education. And the reason why that was stricken out is the prior sentence actually has that in it.
Mhm. I understand. Bev, do you have any, um, do you have any questions, Bev?
No, I don't.
Okay, I do have one question. This is the annual superintendent's budget that we're talking about. It's not
That's
the
right.
board's budget. So I would ask for your consideration if we would put the word superintendents between recommended and annual and avoid any lack of clarity.
The superintendent's recommended.
The recommended superintendent's annual budget. Or the
Okay.
superintendent's recommended annual budget. I don't care, wherever you want to put it.
Okay.
Bev, are you comfortable with that?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that, Matthew.
So I move that we amend, well, we don't have to amend. We're just a committee. We can do this as we go. We don't have to move each tweak, do we? Okay.
No,
No,
no, we don't have to.
Okay,
That's why we're reviewing it, so we don't have to do all that.
okay.
so we struck a prior sentence. The prior sentence was the Board of Education shall examine, alter if necessary, and approve the school budget, which shall then be submitted to the town manager in accordance with sections 8.1 and 8.2 of the charter, budget and finance of the charter of the town of Groton. We replaced it with the board shall review the superintendent's proposed budget at one or more budget meetings and make changes as the majority of the board may desire. The budget shall then be submitted to the town manager in accordance with the chapter, I can't even do Roman numerals anymore, budget and finance of the charter of the town of Groton.
So you've deleted sections 8.1 and 8.2. Can you explain your rationale for that?
We can put them back in,
No,
they're
well,
still there. In accordance with, it may have just been a typo. Section 8.1 and 8.2. There we go.
of, we need the word of there. We need our preposition.
Okay.
I'm channeling Andrea. Okay, that's great. Let's go on.
Okay, and then the last paragraph that was entered, all Board of Education budget meetings are public meetings and the public is encouraged to attend, contribute to the budget development process within guidelines for public participation at the Board of Education meetings.
Beverly, questions?
Nope, that's good. But on the bottom, you struck out section 8.1 and 8.2. Do you want
Yeah,
to?
that must be because we did have Floyd review these, so Floyd may have struck those out.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Well, okay, if that's the case, we should strike them out of the text as well. We need some consistency.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All
So
set.
if you're happy with that, Beverly, would you like to make a motion that we adopt P 3120 budget document for and pass it on to the board for a first reading?
Yep, so move.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
Nope, that sounds good. Thank you, Irene and
Mm.
Susan
Yeah.
Yeah,
and Floyd.
Let's take a
And
vote first
Erica.
before we thank each other. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I say aye. We have 2 in favor, none opposed, none abstained. And again, we will mention Ian's support of what we're doing. Okay, we move on now to 3150, adoption of budget.
So adoption of budget, again, we put Board of Education, board in brackets. Shall annually submit to the town manager as required by the chapter, whatever number that is, sorry, budget and finance of the charter of the town of Groton. A detailed itemized estimate for the cost of operating the school district instead of the school program,
Mhm.
and the revenues to be earned thereby in the ensuing fiscal year. Such estimated cost of operating the public schools for the ensuing year shall be the final budget for the schools, modified if necessary by any difference in the amount requested by the board, we struck out of education, and the amount appropriated by the town for the operation of the schools.
Irene, can I ask you a question, you and Susan? And maybe I should know myself, but I don't. What did sections 8.1 and 8.2 say? And why, do you know why Floyd struck them out?
I can see if the numbering changed.
Maybe you could just get back to us on that.
Okay,
I'm just
It may,
curious.
it may be a housekeeping detail, because if those two sections are the only ones that are relevant, then directing them to the title, to Title 9 or Chapter 9 will automatically include them.
All right.
That's my guesstimate.
Okay, I want to know for real why he struck them out.
Sure.
sure.
Find out.
I'll
Yeah.
follow up on that.
Yeah, thank you.
I have one word I would like your feedback on. You would say here, and the revenues to be earned thereby. Would it be more accurate to say, and the projected revenues? Because we might get some, we might lose some.
Yep, we can have that.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, what's your rationale for putting projected in there?
Well, a couple of years ago, we projected that we were going to get some supplementary funds from the federal government, and then the number of military people came in just a wee bit short, and what we had hoped, what we had projected, didn't come to be. So there is a difference between saying we're going to get revenue and saying that we're projecting revenue. I'm going to trust your advice, Irene, but I just wanted to share my perspective.
Does this have to do with us making, giving a revenue, proposal or,
Yes,
prediction?
Mhm.
Or projected to the town manager, but I think what's happened though is that it typically comes in, we've really seen in 10 years, it tends to come in over. But
Well, we already, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, I believe we functionally do give a projected revenue in our
we
budget.
do.
So, and that's what we think we're going to get. It's what we think we're going to spend. And inevitably, we get gifts that we didn't expect. We spend money we didn't think we were going to expect. Something breaks. So it's a projection, and you have the flexibility as administration to move the funds around to meet the needs of the district.
Yeah, but are you saying all revenue is projected?
In a budget, it is.
All right.
well, some of it we really know to be true, like
Yeah,
ECA.
that's what I thought. I didn't
I'm
know
going
all
to-
Well, can't you say projected revenues and revenues? Or
I-
that doesn't make sense.
For a budget, because it's a projection, I would recommend that we do incorporate Matthew's suggestion of projected.
Okay.
The reason why is the recession of 2008 that hit in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you thought you were going to get those revenues and those grants, things were retracted. So that's why it's safe to keep the projected in there.
But there are some revenues that we know we're going to get, though, right?
But typically in the presented documents in the budget, if it's an unknown, I'll put it in italics. I'll
Mhm.
italicize that number and then put a note that it denotes that it's a projection. And if it's a factual, it's not in italics.
Well, with this
We
one-
believe we're going to get money because this and that happens, but we don't know what Congress is going to do. We can
Right.
hope, I don't think they're going to get around to doing much this year, but next year, we are not going to know. We can just believe
We can
Mhm.
hope
and hope and pray.
and pray.
So, what do y'all think? I don't want to push this at you if you think I'm mistaken.
No, I'm good.
I'm fine.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, let's rock on.
Okay, second paragraph is brand new. If reductions are made in the budget by the board or the town council or representative town meeting, RTM, or referendum, the superintendent shall prepare a final budget recommendation for board review, modification if needed, and approval. Such budget shall reflect changes made by the originally approved education budget to remain within the reduced figure ultimately approved by the legislative authority.
Where
Do
did
we
this
have to
come
have
from?
referendum in there? Cause, we don't go into we don't have a referendum on our budget.
Oh, we can strike that. That was just Cape.
Yeah, we don't need a referendum. We don't need that on top of everything.
No,
I'm curious, Irene, where did this language come from?
this is from Cape. And what it does is it allows the Board of Education that if the bottom line of the budget is reduced by vote of the representative town meeting, because basically the representative town meeting is the final say.
Right,
If the representative town meeting approves a reduction, this allows the budget to come back to the superintendent to realign items to still fit that dollar amount at the bottom line, and then you still approve it as a board. Because RTM cannot change your line items, they can only change your total, your bottom line.
doesn't it usually come back, so does it come back to the board also? Doesn't the board work in conjunction with the superintendent to reduce the budget if that
Yes.
happens?
Yes, that's what
Okay.
this paragraph is doing, is we don't have anything in any policy indicating that it comes back and that it's vetted again and then approved, and then we move forward.
Okay,
It says for board review there. Beth.
Mhm.
okay. Well, I'm good with this.
I am too. I think that it really does strengthen this policy to have that, and I'm grateful. We've deleted
Yep, so there's a
1051.
legal reference regarding payments to by member towns to us. There's no statutory piece in this policy that pertains to that legal reference.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, Bev, you
That's
want any more questions, discussion?
No more, I don't have any question. I just recommend approval. I can't see the number of this policy,
P 3150.
P 3150, and to forward it to the full board
For first reading.
for first reading.
I'll second the motion. Now we can discuss it all over again if we want. Does anybody want to?
Not I.
Okay, then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving P 3150 as an adoption of budget as amended in committee to be sent to the full board for first reading, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have 2 in favor, none opposed, none abstaining, and that gets passed and is going to the full board. You're going to get to dinner on time, Susan.
I know, I love it. And my
Knock on
lasagna
wood.
smells so good.
Hey, wait a minute, wait a minute. You can't taunt, you can't poke the bear. 3160, transfer of funds.
Yes, so
Well, it says here on my it says on our agenda, between functions. So that's how we're approaching it, and you'll read it and make the changes you want.
right, there's 2 different board policies that have that same title. So that's why we were cleaning this one up, because there's 2 different types of transfers that occur. So this is transfer funds between, when we struck out budget functions, they're categories. So salaries, supplies, trying to think of another one, benefits, anything like that. Those are categories. So this basically strengthens this policy so that we don't have 2 redundant policies. So this is and this is all from CABE. The Board of Education Board looks to the Central Office Administration to inform it of its potential line item over expenditures in each school year budget. All transfers of funds between accounts of the budget shall be in harmony with law and shall be approved by the superintendent. The board will receive a written explanation of non-emergency transfers performed by the superintendent or designee for the previous month in the monthly budget and expense report. The board may transfer any unexpended or uncontracted for portion of any appropriation for school purposes to any other item of such itemized estimate. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Expenditures in each fiscal year shall not exceed the appropriation made by the fiscal authority combined with such money as may be received from other sources for school purposes. The board shall provide a written explanation of a transfer made under emergency circumstances to the town council and representative town members. I just noticed it should be RTM.
Delete the apostrophe.
An emergency is defined as an urgent, sudden, or serious event or an unforeseen change in circumstances that necessitates immediate action to remedy harm or avert imminent danger to life, health, or property and exigency. This communication shall promote a positive relationship between the administration, Board of Education, and town boards on how monies are effectively being spent. So what this policy is doing that we didn't have before is provide the option for us to actually readjust the budget for those negative line items where we didn't have enough budget appropriated. So meaning I'm just going to use Susan as an example because she's here. So if Susan thought that she was going to spend $5,000 in supplies, but knows she's only going to spend 4,500 and she needs 500 moved into dues and fees, then she can just let me know this is what she needs moved so that you don't have dues and fees go into a negative in the reports that you get on a monthly basis. Then what would occur is when I provide you with the monthly operating expense report with the highlights, I'll have a budget section for budget transfers that'll highlight what the budget transfers were. The other piece that this does is in the third paragraph, now that we have lapsing funds, the legal mechanism to move those monies or transfer those monies, we don't have documented anywhere. So that's that word unexpended is our lapsing fund. So it allows you to transfer from the lapsing fund, and the board needs to do this transfer, not superintendent, would be a transfer from the non-lapsing up into a category, say like utilities or nurses or something we didn't expect. That's what those funds can be used for. So that's what this policy is doing. And then as far as emergency, again, like if something happens and, I'm gonna knock on wood right now, say the roof collapses and we need to do an emergency purchase to get that taken care of, to make sure that we're maintaining the property itself and that everybody's safe. What happens is Susan authorizes us to just go and do a purchase of whoever can come take care of that at that time. And then post the emergency, we would share that information with town council as well as RTM and the board first, of course. But that way, that that's something that will hit the budget. So it brings it to light to all three parties, to the board, to town council and RTM, that this is unexpected. It's an emergency. We may or may not get FEMA money. It all depends on the severity of it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I was doing that all year long last year. There was a property damage every month to the tune of 500 grand before we started getting insurance back.
I like
So
that
I was letting everybody
paragraph.
know. Huh?
I said, I like that paragraph, and that's
do.
good. And that's good, that's good.
Collaboration.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
And I never liked it going in the negative. That always bothered me.
Exactly.
And I'd rather have it make sense and then we know what we've spent actually, right?
Right. Well,
Right.
what happens is departments think, and I've seen it done both ways, but you could think that you have it available in your budget, but you've committed this money you think you have available to like 3 different negative line items and you start losing track of it. So this makes it much cleaner so that you can see actually where we're spending the money, where we should do our future budgeting, and they're not seeing things going negative. So it stays on top of everybody's mind that they need to live within their budget, move things around, so that they're not coming in overspending.
And this policy state that the superintendent can make a transfer without the board approval.
The superintendent can make the transfer The board would be notified in the next month's monthly budget and expense report and the highlights. And then the board would transfer, where the superintendent cannot, the board can transfer from the unexpended and the non-lapsing account.
Is this one thing that some board members wanted to have their stamp of approval on it before the superintendent did this?
Yeah,
I
and
don't know what the ad hoc committee came up with. I can't remember what they came up with. But I think I remember some discussion that the board would like to approve the transfers.
I think
Aren't there
you're
certain
correct.
transfers, Irene, that can be done and others that can't?
Yeah, it's basically the operating transfers. And this is typically like even how the town operates in other school systems that I've worked for. Is the
Okay.
superintendent approves those transfers and then we
Mhm.
provide an update in the next month. But even town council has to vote if they're gonna move money out of what's called undesignated or unexpended up into
Mhm.
that year's budget. So this is pretty much in line with how the town operates and other schools that I've worked for operate.
Let me,
Okay.
I
You
think-
could, I mean, if you choose to move forward to the board and the board says, no, we want to see everything, maybe we set a threshold
Mhm.
if it's contentious, but otherwise we're going to be reporting it to you anyway.
Mhm.
And the positive is when people are accountable to stay to their bottom line within their program or school, it gives them that flexibility to move things around as they see for their, what's happening in their schools. And then
Yeah.
I'm not trying to explain all these negatives to you each month.
Right. That's a much
Right.
better way of doing business than
Right.
just overspending in different lines and not necessarily being accountable to the bottom line. So,
Right. It's
Irene,
very, very difficult to manage. But
Okay.
even with the monthly reporting, we can add columns that says the original budget and then revised budget. So that
Yeah.
way you can see this is the budget we voted.
Mhm.
Here's revised because transferred occurred. And then we can keep a running transfer page
Okay.
in those
my
reports.
sense is that there will be some discussion on this, not on the mechanics of bookkeeping, because everything you're saying strikes me as accurate. But there are nominally, and you may or may not agree with me, there is the operational side and the policy side.
Mhm.
But in fact, this is my view, there are three sides. There are issues which are exclusively operational. There's no doubt that they're operational. Buying pencils is operational. Paying salaries is operational. And then there are things that are clearly policy. And then there are events where the functions overlap. And it was not a financial issue last time, but at the time that we were talking about possibly reducing some hours, it became a very contentious thing. And I think out of that and a couple of other events, the board wanted to have, it was not a question of saying, don't do it. We want to be consulted beforehand. We really do want to be part of the team and not just be receiving stuff. So I'm no problem voting for this as it is, but I think there's going to be some discussion. I could be wrong. Just as a heads up.
Mhm.
There are two tiny details I would like to ask about, if I might. In the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph, second line, there's an apostrophe after member. This is my Ackerman.
Yeah, that's already been changed.
Okay, the word I'm really good at Greek, and I'm not doing this. An exigency.
emergency.
No, emergency is it is not emergency. It's a
Oh.
Latin-based word. We say the second sentence begins, an emergency is defined as, and an exigency is simply a Latin word. It's a different word.
An
It
urgent
says that it
need or
means the same
demand.
thing. It means the
Yeah.
same thing. To me, that's redundant again.
Sure, we can strike that.
I think it doesn't help anything, and it just confuses poor people like
Yeah, it
me.
does say urgent up here.
Yeah.
unforeseen.
Mhm. And then the final thing is in the last paragraph, monies, I believe, would be spent, IES. Am I correct or mistaken?
That's correct.
Keep saying monkeys.
Yeah, exactly. It keeps coming up monkeys. It's like, no, it's
Well-
not monkeys.
Well, if we can spend monkeys, I'm all for it.
There's a
Any
couple
more
still loose in South
questions?
Carolina, I think.
Yeah. Bev, you have any more questions, comments?
No,
Neither do I. Would you like to make a motion, Bev? The policy number is 3160.
I make a motion to move 3160 to the full board for a first reading.
And I'll second that motion. Now that the motion's been moved and seconded, do we have any discussion? Do we have any further discussion? Not hearing any further discussion, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor of passing policy 3160, transfer of funds between categories and amendments to be sent to the board for first reading. All those please indicate aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we have 2 in favor, none opposed, none abstaining. This policy will be referred to the board. And, oh my gosh. We need to have a delay because we're going to get done too early.
I love it.
No, that when we get to bidding, that'll take you all the way to 6:30, trust me.
Okay, so we're looking now at 3432.
Yes, 3432. In the opening paragraph, it says the superintendent of schools, and we're striking of schools shall submit to the Board of Education, and we put in brackets board, a monthly report concerning the status of budget accounts, including disbursements and budget balances at the first regular meeting each month, and shall submit to the board an annual financial report covering the preceding school year. The paragraph that was added is each fiscal year, the board shall make available on its website the aggregate spending on salaries, employee benefits, instructional supplies, educational media supplies, instructional equipment, regular education tuition, special education tuition, purchase services, and all other expenditure items, excluding debt service for each school under the jurisdiction of the board. And the second paragraph is not adding additional work because we already provide this information when we start the next budget year.
Eileen, does the board have a debt service?
It's probably, we don't pay the debt service in this particular case, like for the schools, the new schools, that would be showing up on the town side. But we don't pay that through us. It's paid by the treasurer in the town.
Is there ever a situation where the board would have a debt service?
There's always a possibility. That's why the language was in there, but it's up to you if you want to strike it out.
No, if there's a possibility, I'm good with it, leaving it in. I was just curious because I never saw that before.
I don't
I never
know what the
heard the
law
board
is.
ever having a debt service, so.
Yeah, it depends on how a city is structured, a city, town, or county. Because in towns, it's typically the only people that are authorized to borrow falls underneath the director of finance with the town and approval of town council. But even that, as the Board of Education, you would still need to recommend that you're going to go forward with a new school or a huge renovation that's going to require debt service before it goes to council.
So for the Groton Public Schools, that language would not apply? The debt
Right,
service
because
thing?
right, because the debt service is being reported underneath the town debt service.
So
It's
we can,
listed as
go ahead.
school, but it's not included in our budget.
So we could eliminate it. You say there might be a possibility, but really there's no possibility.
If we eliminated it, then we would need to report it. If we eliminated that language, we'd need to report it, and then it would be reported in 2 places and would be a real conundrum.
Right, we'd be reporting the same report the town's reporting.
So as I understand, and boy, I don't understand much, as I understand it, the town is the primary institution of government, and we are a department of the town that's granted certain rights to direct our internal operations and budget.
Right.
I would prefer to leave it in, and if you're, what do you think about leaving it in for now and making a phone call to Floyd to ask his opinion, and we can make that change we can make that change at the first reading if we need to.
We can just email him. He's really good on email.
What do you think, Bev?
Oh, I wasn't suggesting taking it out. I was just asking questions.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was asking. I didn't say take it out, did I? Did I say
Oh,
that?
I inferred that. No, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of that.
No, I wasn't. I was just asking questions.
Beat me. Okay. Okay, well, in that case, do we have any further discussion? Or would somebody named Beverly Washington like to make a motion? The number is P 3432.
Can you do it? Because I'm driving again. I
Okay,
just stopped for a little while to listen
Okay.
a little better.
so I'll read what I think you might consider making a motion, and you can say so moved if you honestly feel that way. Do I have a motion to pass P 3432, monthly budget and expense report / annual financial statement, as a policy recommendation to the full board for a first reading?
So move.
I'll second that. Is there any discussion on the motion? Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of passing P 3432, monthly budget and expense report / annual financial statement, and sending it to the full board for first reading, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That item passes 2 in favor, 0 opposed, and 0 abstain. And that concludes our old business. Now, we have a piece of new business, which is 3323, soliciting prices and bidding requirements. Irene, would you like to lead the charge on this?
Sure. What I'll start with is the existing policy for the board. I'm showing the strikeouts just on the screen. You can see all of it is procedures. So that's the definitions of quotes and bids, and then the policy procedures. So it starts right into procedures, and it's all procedural. So what we're looking to do is move this procedural piece into a regulation that I'm hoping to bring to you by December for your December meeting to review. So what Eric and I reached out to CABE, and then we received this updated language. And in the updated language, we're including the thresholds that match the town's policy for soliciting prices and bidding. So all contracts for and purchases of supplies, materials, equipment, and contractual services in the amount of $15,000 or more shall be based, when possible, on at least 3 competitive bids. All purchases between $7,500 and $14,999 in amount may be made in the open market unless sole source provided,
You need a D, yeah.
be based on at least 3 competitive quotations or prices. This amount is established locally. Connecticut general statutes allow sealed bidding for contracts and purchases greater than $25,000.
Did you mean allow or did you mean require?
Required, sorry.
Thank you.
All purchases made in the open market shall be consummated after careful pricing. In an emergency situation, the above requirement may be waived by the superintendent. That was the policy we just talked about. The superintendent shall notify the board chairman as soon as possible, and the entire Board of Education board at the next regular meeting of the board. All contracts and all open market orders will be awarded to the lowest responsible qualified contractor or supplier taking into consideration all the factors set forth in the policy that we just looked at, the 3320. When bidding procedures are used, bids shall be advertised on a district website for at least 5 days. The notice shall also contain the notice shall also contain a notice of state contract requirements concerning non-discrimination and affirmative action pursuing to section, it should be CGS, sorry.
CGS in there?
CGS 4A-60, and when applicable, requirements concerning the awarding of contracts to small contractors, minority business enterprises, individuals with a disability, and nonprofit corporations pursuant to section, and CGS again, sorry.
Isn't that redundant?
It's the two different pieces. So this language actually comes from Connecticut's
Okay,
Department of Administrative Services. So it's having the first sentence pertains to the law about non-discrimination and affirmative action. And then once you get past
But
those two
then-
pieces,
then we
The
should put we should put a period after that and say when applicable and make a new sentence, because if
Okay.
you're having a conjunction, it
requirements.
becomes one.
Okay. Suppliers shall be invited to have their names placed on mailing lists to receive invitations to bid. I can add that to electronic mailing list, sorry. Because they would get the mail later than the bid would be open. So suppliers shall be invited to have their names placed on electronic mailing lists to receive invitations to bid. When specifications are prepared, they will be emailed to all merchants and firms who have indicated an interest on bidding on the items or services being bid. All bids must be submitted in sealed envelopes addressed to the finance director and plainly marked with the name of the bids and the time of the opening.
So
Bids shall,
are we deleting the appropriate school?
yes, before the schools, each school would get the bid and then they would open it. But the board policy and all our purchase orders has my position as the director of purchasing.
Can
as
we
well.
make that change in the document?
So let's see, all bids must be submitted in sealed envelopes addressed to the finance director and plainly marked with the name of the bids and the time of the opening. Bids shall be opened at the time specified, and all bidders and other interested parties shall be invited to be present. The district reserves the right to reject any and all bids, any or all bids, and to accept that bid which appears to be in the best interest of the town or the city. The district reserves
How
the
about
right.
how about if we put in of the school district in lieu of town or city?
Okay. The district reserves the right to waive any informalities and or reject any or all bids or any part of any bid and to negotiate the terms with the selected bidder. Any bid may be withdrawn prior to the scheduled time for the opening of bids. Any bid received after the time and date specified shall not be considered. The next paragraph, the purchase of or contract for the following public utility services. So this big long one, I can put it in a nutshell. So the only thing that is exempt from procurement, according to the state of Connecticut, is utilities. So it's electrical distribution services, water services, gas distribution service, and electric generation services. And what this paragraph speaks to is all the regulations. If at any point in time there's competition where we can go out to competitive bidding, this paragraph allows us to do that. And that, I believe, is the end of the updated policy. And then all the updated statutes references are here that we didn't even have in our prior policy. I also want to make sure people know that the current policy as it sits, where it has these exclusions that are stricken out in red, architectural services, legal services, services requiring specific expertise, textbook purchases. There's no state of Connecticut law that allows us to exempt any of these from bidding. So that is why we're bringing this forward with the board policy in place. And then we're going to bring the regulation forward in December.
Okay.
So Irene is cleaning things up, guys.
So Bev, do you have any questions?
No, Irene, that in the beginning, you said do you have to go to the lowest bidder? I heard something like that.
Right. It's not the lowest, it's the lowest responsible qualified contractor or supplier.
Oh, okay,
So-
that's good.
So let's take legal services as an example.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody comes in and bids against our existing contractor,
Mm-hmm.
you have to measure in that particular case, who's the lowest responsible qualified. So do they have time with Groton Public Schools and know how Groton Public Schools operate, et cetera? You just need to make
Mhm.
sure that you have some of that information in the bid.
You just
Okay.
can't pick any old lawyer.
I graduated from law
exactly.
school last week. I'm like $10 cheaper.
So if it's a good, such as the example I use quite often is Microsoft Office Suite,
Mm-hmm.
if it's a good and you can buy it at multiple places, so you can go to Staples, Target, Best Buy, etc., to buy Microsoft Office products, it's
Mm-hmm.
no longer a sole source type of supply. You can buy it in multiple places, so you get quotes for those. And then you can go with the lowest quote because you're getting the same product.
Right, okay.
And then in some cases you have sole source. So that's like our e-finance system.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other e-finance system. So that's sole source. You cannot buy it anywhere else except for through PowerSchool.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a couple of questions.
Mhm.
In the first paragraph, the last sentence, the superintendent shall notify the board chairman as soon as possible. Nothing wrong with that. If Jay were out of town, I know Susan would probably get in touch with Bev. But I think that we should, she's not going to say, but Jay's not in town, I don't have to do anything. So I'd like it to say the board notify the board chairman or vice chair as soon as possible. Let's just specify that.
I already took care of that and I actually got rid of the word man. So
I
we can
kind
be
of do
good.
that already, don't I, Beverly?
Yes, you do.
Well, the board chair or vice chair,
Right.
the board chair or vice chair.
Mhm.
You have any problem with that, Susan?
Not at all.
Okay. Next one is you put in the electronic, you put in finance director. We put in school district in lieu of town of city. I don't understand this. The school district reserves the right to waive any informalities. Could you tell me what that means in English?
Which paragraph are you in?
I'm in 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph, second line, last couple of words.
Right where you are, Irene, right there.
Okay.
The district.
Formalities in.
What does that mean?
Let's look it up. That one came from.
It looks like there,
Well, my instinct is if Floyd has looked at this, that's probably has some legal meaning. I
Mhm.
have no idea what it means. That may be,
well, we could ask him for clarification on that paragraph.
I would like that.
Okay.
It goes on to say, and to negotiate the terms with the selected bidder.
That was an addition by Floyd.
Okay,
Terms, so it's the terms and condition of the contract. So it could be a 3-year term, it could be a 1-year term. It could be you're negotiating when we're going to pay the bill. We're not going to pay net 15 days. Negotiate the terms of the contract.
Mm-hmm.
or I'm getting 24 free field trips for the next 3 years if we sign.
Yeah, we can put the terms of the contract because that doesn't limit us to just years.
Right.
I have no problem with the clause that's in blue right now. I think that's fine. I just, if none of us can define what it means, we need to be careful about putting it into a policy.
I will.
I'll vote it for the
This one.
purpose of moving it to the board, but you will have some clarification by the time of the meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
Let me make this a strange color so it really pops out both Erica and I. I'll make it purple.
yeah, you can highlight it yellow too.
I don't know where the highlighter is. I don't usually use Google Docs, so
Okay.
I'm still getting used to it.
So,
There we go.
Andrea is coming back for another visit at the beginning of the last paragraph. Andrea wants a comma after the word of, and a second comma after or contract for.
Sorry, just 1 second. I was just highlighting. Where are we at? I'm sorry.
The purchase of, the purchase of, comma,
Okay.
or contract for, comma.
Okay.
And Andrea will be very pleased with us.
She will be very proud of you.
I know. We went to the same high school. No, we didn't. Well, I'm almost ready to ask, is there any more comments, or if Beverly is interested in making a motion?
You have to make the motion. I don't see the name of the policy.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, I mean.
Is someone interested in making a motion to approve policy 3323, business and non-instructional operations, soliciting prices / bidding requirements for forwarding to the board for a first reading?
So move.
I'll second the motion. Further discussion? Further discussion? Not hearing any, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor of passing P 3323, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. 2 in favor, none opposed, none abstained. P 3323 passes. I would move that we postpone new business. Oh, no. That's okay. Never mind.
We
I've
took care of
already
new
done
business.
that. Fine. Cancel that transmission. Well, is there
Very
any
well
discussion
done.
any further discussion before we force Susan to enjoy dinner with her brother?
Nope.
Hearing none, let us reconvene in December. On the December thing, Susan, we're going to try to get the language for the cell phones so that the language in the policy matches and is synchronous with what we have in our student handbooks. That's what I understood. You said we should skip it for November.
Okay.
Great. Irene, I want to thank you. This is just really a pleasure working with you. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
We're
It's
gonna
great
have
to
some
be
more
here.
bumps. We're gonna have some more bumps because I think we're gonna have an interesting budget season. Just hang in with us and we got you back.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate her too, boy.
Yeah, thank you, Irene.
Thank you.
You all have a blessed night. Here,
All right, you too. Thank you very much.
motion
This
to
is great.
adjourn.
So move.
Second, I seconded. Any discussion? It's not a discussable thing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. One last thing. Bon appetit.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.